there's this huge mystery of what thing killed this man. The nature of this mystery is so weird. Like, we don't know what creature killed him.
Did a mountain lion attack and kill Christopher Whiteley one night in rural Texas?
Police said so, but no one else seems to think so.
So what really happened?
And are we ever really going to find out?
We're doing a recap of Kill Site on this episode of So Much Crime,
So Little Time.
If you're enjoying our show, please go to patreon.com/so much crime, so little time. Subscribe, whichever plan feels suitable, to give you those warm and fuzzy feelings of helping to support a teeny tiny podcast that puts episodes out every Tuesday and discusses the difference between the pronunciation of Americans and the Irish, and also some crime and some pop stories, trivia. So many things, so little time. Thank you for your continued support. Bye. Welcome to So Much Crime, So Little Time. I'm Dee.
And I'm Jeff. And before we start, a quick warning.
Warning!
This episode is going to have spoilers for Kill Site. We're going to discuss the whole series, or at least as much as we listen to.
If you haven't listened yet, check out our preview episode in the show. It's the one before this one in your feed.
And you'll also find a link for Kill Site in our show notes. All right, Dee, before we get to our discussion, let's talk about what this show is.
All right, so this podcast was released in December 2025. It was coming out, I think, weekly. So the episodes came out all the way into early 2026. The host is Wes Ferguson. There were 8 episodes in total, with a couple of bonus episodes added in as well. Each of the episodes only ranged, they were around 30 minutes long. One is closer to an hour. Closer to an hour. But Jeff, tell us a little bit about the story as we heard in episode 1.
Yeah, so in that first episode, we met Christopher Whiteley. He had a bit of a troubled past. He went to prison for hurting his longtime girlfriend and mother of his 2 kids, who's named Tyler. He gets out of prison. He's back with Tyler in some capacity, but then one night he disappears. We hear from his parents and his friends. They are very worried. The police are called. They show up at Tyler's place, and then they end up finding Christopher's body near Tyler's trailer. After that first episode, really didn't know much at all. We knew that somehow a mountain lion was going to be involved, but that actually didn't show up in the first episode. So we went on. We listened to 7 more episodes. Heard a lot about mountain lions. Do you want to do your best David Attenborough and turn this into like Planet Earth? The majestic mountain lion.
Moves through the forest. Is often confused by onlookers.
Before we start a discussion, I want to say I actually really enjoyed this podcast. That's my feeling before we start discussing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Off that fence right out the bat, right? Cool. Give me TLDR. 3 words to describe the podcast. Like, why? 3 words that describe the reason as to why you liked it.
Can I give you 3 terms?
Sure.
Compound. Well organized.
Okay. Did you write these down? It looks like you're reading them.
Yeah, I did. I didn't write down 3, but I'm trying to turn what I wrote down into 3 words.
I wrote down like 15 words, and in like that's my notes are 15 words long. So I just love that you wrote down your words. Like my entire notes of the podcast. Go on.
I found it well organized. I thought there were a limited number of people to focus on. I thought, despite some of the criticisms that we had of the way they handled the tone of the first episode, I thought it handled things much more respectfully as it went on. That's more than 3 words by a long shot.
Yeah.
Use fewer words, Jeff. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I presume you're asking me what I thought.
I was about to, but you beat me to it.
Yeah. I think conceptually I like this podcast. Like this should tick. If I had a checklist of criteria I'm looking for in a podcast, this podcast should tick all those boxes.
What are some of those boxes?
Empathetic to the victim. Having like some critical thinking about how the approach of the investigation was, not in a judgmental way, but in a like, what is happening? Like this doesn't make sense. Not jumping to police again or not like on the job, which I think we've heard in some other podcasts.
Yeah.
But really kind of putting things out there and discussing them in a like sensitive and empathetic way, not like inserting themselves in the story, I feel like, and really focusing on the experts as they can find or any primary sources that they can find. They're generally speaking like what I like in a podcast. For me, I don't know that this podcast connected with me in a way that others have. So maybe it's harsh to like want just a podcast to connect in it. Like, yes, I think it did all of these things. It ticked all these boxes, but like there were some elements where I really cared. Not that I didn't I did care that a man had died. But I felt like a lot of the content was on a topic that I didn't connect with. Mainly mountain lion experts. The like, you know, what was it called? Not diameter, but the size of the bite of an animal. I just like hunting in general in Texas and the reaction to that. I just felt like so much of it was on this topic that I just personally didn't connect with, where I felt like sometimes that Christopher Whiteley maybe just got lost in that a bit. That's what I would say. So I found myself, you know what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of rabbiting on a bit. And I'm being obtuse. Like I'm not being clear about what my point is. No. I'm not on the fence. Like I didn't like this. I wouldn't recommend this podcast to another person. Like that's where I'd go right now with this before our discussion. Maybe you'll change my mind on this. But it's not because I didn't feel like they respectfully and like well organized and well researched podcast. It just was not for me.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
I respectfully disagree. I think this was for you. And I think you don't know yourself. You're not.
You don't know what you want. There was something you said that I wanted to ask you about, which is you basically were like, okay, in the preview episode, one criticism we had was we felt like the hosts were pretty unsympathetic,
flippant,
and like jokey. Yeah, about this, particularly about the victim who had like, you know, I remember there was a tattoo.
Yeah.
Down near his crotch, maybe. Mm-hmm. Somewhere along those lines. And they were kind of like making a joke about it. And we were like, oh, I don't like this. That disappeared entirely in the rest of the podcast.
The Just Do It Nike tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I get it. Like, it's hard to talk. Like, I don't know why you want to talk about that tattoo. Like, I just feel like this isn't the podcast to talk about it. Do you know what I mean? Not our podcast, but their podcast.
But what I think was interesting was they did inject some humor and sarcasm here and there throughout the rest of this. Like there were some real funny moments to this. In particular, the interview with Uncle Kenneth in episode 6, the guy at the food pantry who loved his Dr. Pepper and just sugar. He just loved sugar.
Tyler's dad?
Tyler's something. Yeah, the relationships between people is a little fuzzy here, but he goes by Uncle Kenneth. I don't know exactly whose uncle he is, but I thought the host had a little bit of fun there, and there were a couple other moments too. But I don't know. Also, as a Dr. Pepper lover myself, that was fun.
You love Dr. Pepper?
I went to Texas to go to the Dr. Pepper Museum in Waco, Texas. And to run a marathon. But I went to the Dr. Pepper. I was very excited to go to the Dr. Pepper.
I don't think I've once seen you drink a Dr. Pepper.
I don't drink a lot of soda these days. But when I do.
It's Dr. Pepper. I don't think I've ever tasted a Dr. Pepper.
They're delicious. It's very polarizing. People hate it or they love it. People aren't really like so-so on Dr. Pepper. It's great.
Dr. Pepper, so misunderstood. Isn't that like the little ditty that went with it?
I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so what I think to me, the most maybe frustrating but also interesting thing about this is I think they were very critical of the police, of the sheriff's department and their handling of this case, and feeling like this guy didn't get fairly investigated because he was a criminal and a lowlife and a drug addict. And there was speculation that this was sort of like justice if Tyler did it or Tyler's family did it because he was abusive to her. And that's interesting. That's potentially what happened. We don't know. But then there's also this part of they seem like I felt like they investigated so hard of like, could a mountain lion have done this? Here are all the reasons. No. But also, did a human do this? That doesn't make any sense. Like, there's this huge mystery of what thing killed this man that we never find out. And to me, like that, I'm often frustrated when we get to the end of a podcast and there's no like resolution. But the nature of this mystery is so weird. Like, we don't know what creature killed him. Like, what I expected this to be was people said it was a mountain lion. Really, it was just a person. And that gets kind of like put together logically.
Yeah.
But they were pretty clear that like, this doesn't look like a human did it.
Yeah, particularly in that last episode, I feel like that was very, very clear. They were like, it just couldn't have. I nearly feel like that last episode was maybe one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I was like really tying things together. Yeah, they were harsh on the police. There was an element of me, what were you going to say there?
What do you think really happened?
I reckon. So, are you ready? Buckle up. I haven't thought this through too much, but I have been thinking about it today in particular. You know the way there was talk of, I'm sorry to have to bring this up, but you know the way there was talk of how there was a claim that Christopher had attacked Tyler with like a shears plus a blade or something.
A shank,
it was like
an X-Acto knife and a tree trimmer somehow attached.
Yes. So we hear of that earlier on. And then I'm like, okay, they don't know, like it couldn't be an animal, like what tool could have done this? And I'm like, because of that connection, I couldn't help think, like when they said that incident had occurred. And I'm like, oh, so someone in her family said, well, you think that's bad? I'm going to conjure up like a tool that is going to evoke so much harm on you. And that tool is like not a knife or a tree trimmer or whatever. It's a tool that's made up out of various things that it was like inconceivable that a human did it, but it also didn't make sense for like any one animal. You
think like it was potentially deliberately like almost like staged to be like an animal?
I don't even know if that thought went into it. I think probably the intent was, I'm going to cause you a lot of feckin' harm because that's what you've done to our Tyler, or that's what you've done to whatever.
Do you believe
the kids?
From the people that we heard from, and I feel like this is a little bit playing into the same stereotype that the sheriff's office played into, but like, do you believe these people could have done that and then gotten away with it?
I mean, we've heard of people getting away with like crazy things previously that seem insane. Like, even so, it's said that he had methamphetamine in his system.
But not
what
a ton.
Impact? Yeah, but assumption, I'm going to infer that the other people he was with also were doing drugs. So if you've got drugs and this kind of planned wild attempt, do you not think someone could do something that feels like outside of the realm of like human possibility?
But he was,
if the right tools were involved.
He was 0.3 of a mile away from the trailer.
Yeah.
And so on the one hand, if drugs and alcohol are involved, that would explain why you would leave. Like if you're trying to get away with it, you wouldn't put him 0.3 of a mile away from your trailer. You also wouldn't have him out in the direction that it makes no sense for him to have gone. Right? Like he went the opposite direction of where his dad was coming to pick him up.
I don't think this was like a well planned out situation.
But if it's not a well planned out situation, I feel like it's so bizarre to me that the sheriff's office was just like, mountain lion. All right, we're done here.
What year did this occur?
2020.
Okay. What
Right?
else was happening? And we hear about this in 2020.
COVID. Yeah, it was COVID.
Like, and
But it was
actually, like, that's one of the things that I've written down, the impact of the pandemic on the sheriff's department. Look, I am not coming down as in like pro police. Like, no, they've done a great job. They did a terrible job at this. Like, leaving his body out overnight, insane. Like, this is what happened in the Sophie Toscan de Plantier murder in West Cork that we listened to all
West
those
Cork.
episodes ago.
Wow, it's the
And-
longest we've ever gone without bringing up West Cork.
And people couldn't believe that her body had been left out. And this was in like, what, the early 90s in Ireland, like in a very remote setting in Ireland. So
Yeah.
I feel like, yes, a lot of things weren't done right by the police, of course. Also, things maybe were sloppy by the, whatchamacallit, the forensic pathologist. Is that the right, am I using the right
I
phrase
think
there?
so. Yeah. The medical examiner and
the medical examiner. But again, we got to be curious. We got to be empathetic to the situation. Do you remember making mistakes in your job during the pandemic? Do you remember being so stressed out because things were insane? Your mind was wild. You're trying to set up work. You're trying to support your family, your kids. People have made mistakes, especially at that time. And to be in such a high stakes work environment at that time when things are blowing up, there's bodies everywhere. They talk about what the freezer vans or the refit. Yeah, the bodies in the coolers, like driving away. Like, I feel like we have to, and they mentioned it in this podcast, but I do feel like we have to be like, okay, everyone was making a ton of mistakes at that stage.
that's a good
There
point.
was too many here, and it seems intentional with a lot of mistakes. And I definitely think there's a socioeconomic situation coming in here where they're like, well, they're from that area. He was a druggie. He might have been like, it seems like he was beating up his girl. Like, that's, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
That's not okay. And as they said in the podcast, that's a miscarriage of justice. But at the same time, we got to be aware of that.
No, I think you're right. I think all that is I think COVID is a really important thing to bring up. That definitely, I mean, I do think it's important to contextualize it. And I was obviously in California in 2020, but COVID in Texas, rural Texas, was not the same as COVID in the Bay Area of California. It wasn't treated the same way. People were dying, but like the people's reactions to it were different. But we don't know person to person what was going on. I did write in my notes from that episode where we heard about the medical examiner, and they were also talking about like the bleaching the body. But there, at some point, it was said that it was not a knife wound. The other thing I thought was, oh, this was like a dog, like someone and their dog, like they sicked their dog on him. But they said it was too big of a wound for any type of domestic dog. I just like that. I keep going back to that mystery of, and maybe this is about the people who investigated it, but like so many people have looked at this case, have looked at the photos, and for none of them to be like this, like everyone said this is not this, but I don't feel like we heard anyone say, I think, and I have good reason to believe it was this.
Yeah, and I think the other question I would have about that is like, well, first of all, because they didn't take care of the crime scene and they didn't close it down, they didn't protect the body. And then there's like the bleaching that they weren't able to check for like saliva of an animal or whatever. People are looking at pictures. And like we know, even if all of the evidence is captured, that different experts can come to different conclusions.
Sure.
And this isn't an exact science. So I don't know. Maybe it's a case that someone like attacked him and then set their dog at him. So maybe he was already dead. Maybe he was dying and the dog got set on him. We don't know. And like, we will never know. I 100% think that the police did a terrible job here at just trying to get something done and dusted and closed. And as I said, like, it's not that I just don't, I don't know. But what do you make of all the mountain? Sorry, go on.
But that's part of what I appreciate about this podcast was what I think Wes Ferguson did so well as a reporter here was saying, like, here is a case that's a mystery. Here is a victim who is complicated, right? Like, by all accounts, was both a bad guy who did bad things, but also came from a very troubled childhood, and like bad things happened to him too, right? Like he first got in trouble when he was 10 years old.
Oh, I know.
And they kept coming back to that point, particularly I think in that last episode, of like, he still deserved justice. He still deserved better than this, because everybody does. Because so many times we hear about people who don't get treated fairly and don't get, their crimes don't get handled well. And I think just drawing attention to that case, trying to like put in the work that the police didn't put in or didn't do well. And I did, like, okay, and we should talk about the mountain lion stuff.
Hold on. I want to pose a question to you before we move on to the mountain lion stuff. In a situation where this podcast is different, this podcast is about the trial of Tyler, who has been convicted of murdering her abusive husband. They live in a trailer. We've done this podcast before.
Blind plea?
Yeah. Where he is an abusive shithead and he has put her through hell and she fights back. And now she's in prison and she's on trial because the justice system is not seeing her case, and they are focused really on getting the woman and closing this out. In that world, your response is going to be, fuck that guy. Which you have said so many times about different cases. And you, I think, would come down and say, more or less, who gives a shit? Like, not who gives a shit, but you would. And so I think I hear what you're saying and I don't disagree, but I also think it's complicated.
I was just going to say it's complicated. You're right. You're right.
It's complicated. And I also think, again, going back to the pandemic, I don't know.
No.
In this county, if there are 5 deaths and one of them is someone who has been accused of like horrendous violence against his partner while his kids are around, taking away all the extra stuff. I understand that this isn't black and white. This isn't a case of like, oh, you're a good person, so you deserve to have like the proper investigation. That's not what I'm saying. But in the case that we have these 2 cases of someone who is an innocent, has never been, has never been convicted of a crime, is just trying to get through their day, and they've been attacked or murdered, versus someone who's in his situation and you were said like they can do one case.
Yeah.
You are going to fall on that other case, and that might not feel good inside to admit, but that is exactly what you're going to say.
No, you're right. That's true.
Thank you.
Frustrating. It's frustrating sometimes that you like have processed, like you've listened and processed, and then you're able to like spit these things back because you've observed.
But I didn't think of that until we were actually discussing this.
Yeah, but like you did it in the, like it's annoying sometimes.
It's when I don't overthink these things, my brain works better.
It's a good life lesson.
I do think one of my favorite lines from this podcast is going to be curious, not judgmental.
You know what's funny about that? So they brought that up that was Walt Whitman via Ted Lasso. Mm-hmm. I actually just today was in a conversation with someone who brought that same quote up and then said it's been wrongly attributed to Walt Whitman. And I was like, oh shit, like I just listened to that like at lunch.
That's hilarious.
We should talk about mountain lions. I feel like that's part of where this lost you, and it's part of what I was here for. I was into this. Mountain lions are cool and terrifying.
Yeah.
And I think hearing from Mike Bodenchuk, the mountain lion expert, and Jonah Evans, the state mammologist. I didn't know states had mammalogists. I didn't know that was a thing. Did you know that?
No.
Do you not know who California's state mammologist is?
No.
I don't either. Do we vote for that? Is that an elected position?
I'm not allowed to vote. We've discussed this.
Okay. All right.
Stop rubbing it in. Give you some salt to throw in that wound. Go on.
I just think so. I think they went a little too far. Particularly, like I listened to the bonus episode, the Cougar Bebop episode about the documentary guy. But I don't know. It's like they're interesting. I mean, these are like, you've been to India. I've not been to India.
I have.
One of the things I think always kind of amazes me, and this is true of other parts of the world, but India is where I think of like the fact that there are just people who just live in these towns and these cities, and then very close by, there are just tigers. And sometimes they attack and kill people. And a mountain lion is smaller and more fearful and like far less likely to attack a human than a tiger. But like in America, we've killed almost all of the large predators, right? Like there's still some bears in some places and there's mountain lions. It's kind of it, right? Like it's crazy to me, the idea that this is still like a threat out there. And in a lot of parts of the world, like this is not just India, like there's other places with large predators, but like, you're in Europe, you're not going to get attacked by a tiger.
Sorry, this is such a side note. I can't remember if I sent you this thing where someone released a video I can't remember where it was in Ireland, of a tiger, like in a woods, and a lion. And they were like, oh my God, did I not send this to you?
Mm-mm.
It was on the news. Someone had like sheared their dog, like their big dog. I can't remember what type of dog it was.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah,
and it looked like from afar, it looked really like a lion. And everyone was like, what's going on? We don't have these here. Did they escape from the zoo?
And I guess part of why I think this was fascinating to me is because, and I said this in the preview, how like I know someone who's run into a mountain lion on a trail once, and I've gone hiking near us in a place where mountain lions are spotted. In Colorado, they were more common. And like I've been on a trail and run into a bear a couple times. And that is terrifying. Just like to see something that could theoretically kill you just out in the wild. You're alone in the wilderness. But it's very rare, right? Like it's super rare. So I don't know. It was interesting to just like how they went about the process of determining that it wasn't a mountain lion. And both from like, the bite on the victim, but also just like there was a mountain lion spot in the area, but like they were tracking this mountain lion and they could kind of place it where it was. And that like the mountain lion didn't go through downtown Dallas to get there. That just wasn't going to happen. I don't know. It was interesting to me. You were just totally not here for that.
No, like, I mean, I would have been here for it. It just felt like it went on and on and on and on about the mountain lion. And then it felt like it went on and on and on about the fact that it wasn't a mountain lion that killed the guy. And it feels like that could have been summed up in one episode. This is the thing about mountain lions. Here's a bonus going into the detail of this guy. Can't remember his name. Sorry. Insert name, Jeff. Who has the documentary on the mountain lions.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Love that for you. This is great. I'm not being sarcastic when I'm saying that, but I'm just like to me, we're going off on a different, like he's getting death threats himself and his kid because he's just saying like, we need to consider whatever
the traps.
The traps and like just being kind to the animals. Of course, I think that's very important. I don't understand why that's in this podcast.
That was a real detour. I think the episodes 2 and 3, where we heard from the mountain lion expert and the state mammalogist, was much more relevant because they were involved in this case. The documentarian was like
the guy that went in to have a chat with the sheriff, and he's presented with the body on the table, and he's got like the skeleton head of the mountain lion.
Mike, that was Mike Bodenchuk,
Yeah, he's like, that's not what I was expecting. Like, that was fascinating to hear. Like, this whole idea of them getting around and being like, we got to get behind this theory, whatever it is, like about the dog bite or the dog attack. Fascinating.
Yeah.
But there was too much for me about something that's related, but we're saying it's not a mountain lion. But then we're talking about how mountain lions need to be protected. I'm like, wait a sec. Have I like fallen asleep and woken up in a different podcast? It just was confusing to me. It lost me. I listened. I was into parts of it, but I found that kind of, I don't know, didn't love that.
I think what we haven't done in a long time is say, like, if we were the editors of this, how would we do it differently? And I think I would definitely just cut episode 7, which was the documentarian. I think that was, because then they come back for episode 8, and episode 8 is sort of like the whole podcast in a single episode.
Yeah.
And when I got to that, I was like, oh, like this could have just been it. Like if this was a This American Life episode, it would have just been episode 8, whole story, beginning to end.
Mm.
But I did think episodes, particularly episodes 2 through, I guess, 6, was an interesting journey. I appreciated how they kind of broke it up.
Yeah, I thought episodes 5 and 6, they were like jarring in a way that was kind of wild. But then episode 6, when they're going to Lipan and they're like going through and they get chased out
or
by a pickup
intimidated
truck
out,
with loads of men, maybe intimidated, yeah, like lying in the bed of the truck, and then the police car with them. I was like, whew, guys, this feels like the trees.
The trees, Percival Everett.
It felt like a lot. But yeah, I mean, again, it's not that I didn't care about Christopher Whiteley. It's not that when there was a connection to his story that I wasn't like engaged, but I just felt like there was too much fluff and there was too much repetition. I feel like it could have been condensed.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think going back to that episode 6 where they're driving around Lipan, to me, I think this is something I often think about when we listen to these ones where we're hearing from a journalist who is investigating, whether it's a cold case or something like this, where they're sort of like going back to the scene of the crime or trying to investigate people who might be suspects potentially. It's always so interesting to me about how these journalists, in a way, are like putting themselves in a dangerous position, right? Like they're not cops. They're not detectives. They have their phones and a lot of nerve. And that's kind of it. And they're like, there's points where he was like, yeah, and I didn't have a phone signal. And so I was lost. Like, oh, like you're in a really vulnerable place here. Like there's potentially people who see you as a threat and you're just out here alone. I don't know. I guess I'm sort of just in awe of the bravery that it takes to go and do that. Like you're doing this so you can make a podcast.
Seems like a lot. Seems like a lot of work.
What I'm saying is I think we should take our podcast on the road, do some investigative journalism, put our lives
PTO for that
on the line.
You can go and do the legwork and I'll just appear and tell you why you're doing things wrong. After our discussion, are you still like, I really liked this, would recommend?
Yes, I am. I have a strong opinion about this one. Is it my favorite podcast we've listened to? No, but it's definitely like a very unique one that I think lots of parts of this are going to stick with me. That's my prediction. I think so. It's February now. If we come back and talk about this at the end of the year and you say Kill Site, the mountain lion one, I'm like, oh yeah, Dr. Pepper guy. Like there's bits of this that I think are going to stick with me. What about you?
What do you reckon about the naming of it?
Kill Site? I mean, it's on the nose. It's mountain lion lingo, sort of.
So for the sake of being memorable, it feels more like mountain lions should be in the title. Because they're mentioned a shit ton in this podcast.
Yes, they are.
Like they're mentioned so often.
What would you title it?
I don't know. Mountain lion or ... I don't know. I haven't thought that through enough. The end of my thought was I don't think Kill Site is the best name for it. But also this podcast, and on the note of like reviews and stuff, very hard to get a review of this series, maybe because of its recency. But the Unforgotten in general has like really solid reviews, which is interesting. Episode 1 reviews on Spotify. I couldn't care less about an abuser. Got what he deserved.
Wow. Okay. Would you listen to another season of this?
I wouldn't be against listening to it. I will say an annoying thing for me is when they don't when there isn't a clear distinction between the podcast and the ads. And especially when it's the podcaster's voice. I don't know if the ads were the same for you, but it was all about Quince. And it was like, so recently I bought some pillowcases on Quince. And I was like, oh, this is so annoying. It's very hard to like go through these podcasts and like skip them.
You know, it is. And it's also why on our show, when we're telling people about Patreon, we always have music under them. So that people can skip it if they want and know when to stop skipping because the music has stopped. Like lots of podcasts do that.
So on the final episode, we've got One Fly Chicken who said, I would bet the bank on it being a human. I know, One Fly Chicken is such a great name. The lying ex, the family turmoil, the drugs, the phone call with his dad, and hearing the other voices. Where's the shirt? Come on. You don't need experts to explain common sense. Either the police are this dense or they're covering up their incompetence. I'd be suing them. Rachel Locke, I did not read these before, said, I keep thinking about the shank made from a weed eater. What if it was a weekender with the metal blade? Many of those are jagged. Could that have made the wound more of a tear than a cut? And the Unforgotten responded saying, right. Jennifer Durr responded saying, I was thinking the same thing.
It has to be a human. I think it's just a matter of who that human was, and it has
Someone
to
else
be.
is saying, this dude was no saint by any means. I know he was beloved son, but he did some awful stuff. Mixed drugs into the scenario and a small town good boy system, and whoever is responsible will never be caught. But this is obviously a human attack. Super morbid, but have you all seen the meat shredder claws for barbecue meat? Take a look at it. Tell me what you think. And the Unforgotten responded saying, just looked up meat shredder claws and then like a face.
Okay. But that they make this point in that 8th episode of, and I guess this is maybe this is kind of to what you said before about if Tyler was involved and Tyler was on trial, like how I would feel about that. But someone got away with murder here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that shouldn't just be okay. I know in Blind Plea, I felt differently. I don't know. I thought this was a well done podcast. That's how I feel.
I don't disagree that it was well done. It wasn't for me. I wouldn't recommend it purely based on that.
I would love it if people leave comments on our episode. You do not have to suggest other violent implements that could cause damage to a person. That is not necessary. We would rather you just tell us what you think about us and how much you enjoy listening to us. And while you're leaving a comment, don't forget, leave us a rating. We actually just got a couple of ratings as of the recording this episode on Spotify. Really appreciate those. Thank you for those 5-star ratings. Those really help other people find the show. And be sure to also tell a friend. Next time, look for a special announcement in your feed about some changes to our show schedule. So Much Crime, So Little Time is a production of Mind Glove Media. The executive producer is Paxton Caloriso. Our associate producer is Blythe Ty. Our theme music was composed by Vyacheslav Starostin. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to this show on your podcast app. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and a review. Even better, tell your friends. To join the discussion, look for us on social media. Check out the show notes for all the links. Thanks for listening.